Hello guys! Today we are going to explore another great map in the tour around the zone mode. And remember, if you want to choose this particular mode, you can do it from the menu. But I have also the free play unlocked because I finished the game at least once. That's the necessity to unlock this mode. So free play is basically different because you choose from many options, but you still play the game as we meant to, but tour around the zone is completely peaceful and you just explore the whole map that you choose and you can learn a lot from, for example, nodes and NPCs. And as you see, welcome to the tour around the zone. This mode grants you the freedom to explore the exclusion zone without any missions or adversaries. So let's start it. And today I will try to be your guide through this mode, but also I will be guided by NPCs and the nodes we will find on a particular map. And I kind of feel which map will I choose today, because usually I try to mix them and not to make too much videos about a particular subject, but there has been some 2 or 3 weeks since I covered the Red Forest on our channel, and recently we've done the cooling towers, which are, well, I will show you like this. We already visited cooling towers and we visited Pripyat Central, so we can either choose Pripyat residential area, but it's quite, well, not similar to Pripyat Central, but it's still an urban map. So this time I could choose between Kopachi and Red Forest, and I kind of feel like Red Forest is more fun for today. So, yes, I'm sure that I want to start the tour here. We'll have to wait a second, and you can see that I'm playing on 21:9, so a wide setting. And I just feel like this is the best way to enjoy Chernobylite. Because I played, of course, on 16:9, so the most popular resolution, but 21:9 is the best for me. Especially I have a good monitor for that. But I hope you will enjoy this, and as you can see, it's free to explore, but still it's best to avoid some radiation hotspots, and there are a lot in the Red Forest, because Red Forest was maybe not the most, but one of the most irradiated places because of the Chernobyl disaster. So let me see what we have here. So okay, this is a helicopter there, and we have 2 question marks. So these question marks, if you haven't watched the previous videos in this mini-series, are the places that you can find nodes or scientists. Nodes are, well, that's simple. Nodes are just lying around and you can read them, while the scientists are more interactive and they will tell you more about the disaster, sometimes especially about the place that you found them in. But on the other hand, you can ask them questions or don't. This is like a complete free mode, but don't mix it with the free play. It's like free mode regarding what you choose, when you choose, and where do you want to go. And I'm not sure that I went correctly. Yeah, I have to get a little detour here. And yeah, there is the fence. And I'm getting closer. Yeah, there's a lot of question marks around. So each map is filled with those. And each map is exactly taken out from the regular game. But we felt like this would be a great opportunity for you to learn more about the Chernobyl disaster. Yeah, here's the scientist, but let me check. There should be a second one, probably a node. Yeah. After the Chernobyl disaster, it became clear that the USSR had no vehicles suitable for highly radioactive environments. A variety of robots were utilized for different tasks, including radiation reconnaissance, photography, sampling, analysis and burial of radioactive materials. However, most robots proved unsuitable for the harsh conditions. Yeah, and that's like filling in where the previous node found on Pripyat Central map left us, because they were talking about those robots too, but here is a bit more about them. So the S-Tier-1, if I remember correctly, was a moon rover, and that's a cool thing to remember. So, Mr. Scientist.
What you see here is the Claw, a large metal structure located in the Red Forest area of the Chernobyl Exclusion Zone. This equipment was used in cleanup and containment efforts following the Chernobyl disaster. Despite its notoriety, the Claw acts as a reminder of the ongoing risks posed by the disaster and continuing efforts to address its legacy.
So, is it still radioactive? I think so, but let's hear it.
It was used to remove radioactive graphite emitting 20,000 roentgen per hour from the roof of reactor number 3. It's still dangerous even today.
So, I didn't, well, I will ask him here so you could see the claw. Yeah, sorry, we know this already. So why is the claw so important?
It depends on several factors, including the type and level of radiation, the duration of exposure, and the sensitivity of the individual. However, a dose of about 10 sieverts is considered lethal for the majority of the population. It is important to note that lower doses of radiation can have serious health effects, depending on the exposure conditions.
So for example, so I clicked on the wrong option, how much radiation is deadly. But on the other hand, remember that, for example, when it comes down to radiation sickness and acute radiation syndrome, it also is very important to remember that timing matters, so how long were you exposed, and the source matters also. And why is the claw so important?
It's one of the few remaining physical reminders of the scale and scope of the cleanup operation, involving thousands of workers and specialized equipment. The Claw has become a symbol of the Chernobyl disaster and a popular destination for photographers and tourists visiting the exclusion zone.
And this is the claw, and I remember that some time ago, not so long, I think 2020 or 21, 22, something like this, it was painted, I think it was pink, by some stalkers, and sorry to say, but I didn't really like it. Well, of course, not because of the aesthetic reasons, but because this is like the, I don't know how to call it, legacy of some kind of this place, of the exclusion zone, and I don't like vandalizing it. Of course, this piece too, but also anything in the zone. There are stalkers who enjoy the zone but by just visiting, exploring. But there are also some that thinks that maybe because it's, well, nobody's, if I may call it that way, it's okay to destroy it or, I don't know, loot it or change the place. And of course, if you would like meet, if I can call it that way, this claw, don't really recommend you to get close to it. It's still radioactive today, like a lot of places in the Chernobyl Exclusion Zone is, but this particular item is quite irradiated still. And there should be, somewhere here, there should be another scientist or, oh, that would be note. Yep. In May 86, researchers in Kiev detected an abrupt and persistent increase in radiation levels. No wonder. Within a week of the Chernobyl disaster, they reported that radioactivity in drinking water and grass exceeded typical ambient radiation by 1,000-fold. 1,000 times more. Damn, that's huge. Scientists needed to assess contamination of the food chain and its effects on human health. Yeah. Cows were used as type of dosimeter. Well, yeah, they eat grass, and you know how much should cow be irradiated, so basically they could tell you in some way that how much is the grass irradiated. But no, let's don't uncover everything in order. Just wander around. And if you didn't watch the previous videos, I commented on the things like the details of the structures. And many of those that you see here are sometimes, of course, copy-pasted because of the gameplay needs, etc. But most of them were manually scanned, and we used a technology called photogrammetry that back in the day when we started to do so was just a pioneer technology, and nowadays a lot more developers, a lot more studios use it because it's quite, maybe not simpler, like directly simpler, but it is cheaper and still provides with a extremely detailed way, because you use cameras to capture anything, a structure, an item, anything, on a multiple photos. And we even have like 360 scanning place inside our building in Gliwice in Poland. So if, for example, we scan dolls, etc. there, of course similar to those from Chernobyl, we didn't take any, but it uses a lot of photos. It takes a lot of photos to make a scan, and then this photos have to be processed into the 3D models. So that meant a lot of work, but it provided one of the best possible scans that you could make. So before the Chernobyl accident, Soviet scientists believed that people could safely live on land contaminated by up to 5 curies per square kilometer. However, this number didn't account for people in the rural areas around Chernobyl consuming local produce. Yeah, because the produce grew in the contaminated soil, etc., etc. So after examining radiation contour maps, the commissioners realized that using a 5 curies threshold would force over 1 million people to leave their homes. Exactly, because the affected area would be much larger than they anticipated. So they raised the threshold to 15 curies of cesium-137 per square kilometer, deeming it kind of safe-ish, and the exclusion zone was created. Yeah, that's one of the things I still don't quite understand. Well, maybe not. I understand the reasons behind creating the zone in the way it is now, but on the other hand, I don't agree with it, because it was kind of maybe somehow a political decision. And of course you couldn't meet this kind of structure inside the zone, because it's exactly like a part of, I can call it, stronghold inside the zone. And basically this was made because of the gameplay needs and the design reasons. So, for example, these kind of things, like, I don't know if that's a bus. It looks like some kind of machinery. I don't remember what it was, but there is maybe not a miraculous, but they call it this way. There is something like the miracle that buried cars and machinery and everything else could over the time could go up and just reveal itself. So they were buried in the soil, in the earth, due to how much contaminated they were. But then again, after years, they started to pop out, if I may say so. And some people said that it was a miraculous revelation. Yeah. And the zone is full of these kind of structures, so very decayed, destroyed. I think that's a good word, decayed. Because it's just typical building that was abandoned and nobody's taking any care of it. It's just succumbing to time, to elements. Now on the map we see rain and fog, and imagine this wooden structure just collapsing because of the rotting and because of the, I don't know, weakening of the wood, etc. Of course, the concrete structures and the brick walls are, well, keeping themselves in a better way because they're stronger, but still a lot of things happening there, and you can't, at least now, you can't just expect to see the same building you saw, for example, 10 years ago. And here is another scientist, so let's listen to him a bit.
Welcome to the Red Forest, a famous tract of woodlands located in the exclusion zone around the Chernobyl nuclear power plant.
So why is it called the Red Forest? And I know the answer, but let's hear them.
The forest earned its name due to the red color of the pine trees that succumbed to intense radiation following the nuclear accident in 1986.
Well, let's listen to it again. Yeah, red color. Well, actually it's more of a brownish, like gingerish, I could call it. And the fun fact is that the forest still grows, of course. And some of it was completely destroyed. They cut all the trees, they tried to move the soil to reduce the contamination and to bury the contaminated, especially the top layer of the soil. But then again, over the years, it's the plant life, it's still growing. It takes the radiation higher in the soil, and for example, the new trees are also growing kind of reddish, so it may tell us that still, despite the radiation, the new plant life is growing, and it already has some, I don't know how to call it, attributes that are strictly connected to the radiation. So how high is the radiation around here?
The Red Forest is still considered one of the most radioactive places on Earth. Its trees had to be buried to prevent the further spread of radioactive contamination. The forest soil, water, and air are also irradiated.
And that's like another fact from the recent times. After the Russian invasion of Ukraine, there was some troops movement around the Chernobyl nuclear power plant and in the exclusion zone, and there was a small spike in the radioactivity, but that was most probably due to the dust. You know, you have like tanks and armored vehicles, etc., running through the forest, and the topsoil is also still irradiated, and this moves the soil, this raises the dust, and the dust is easily carried away with the winds. So there was a short spike in radiation.
Fortunately, despite the contamination, the Red Forest has become a unique habitat for a variety of wildlife, including deer, wild boar, and wolves. Scientists have also observed mutations in the local plants and animals, including genetic abnormalities and changes in physical characteristics.
Yeah, but nonetheless, they're still thriving here because of, well, the humans that are missing. So there's extremely low population of people. There are some people still living around and working in the zone, like for example guards and scientists. But nonetheless, there are a lot less people now, so the animals have easier times, if I may say so. And here is another scientist. Why is he uncovered?
Did you know aircraft were used not only to assist in the liquidation of the disaster site, but also for cloud seeding? The military was tasked with cloud seeding to prevent radioactive fallout from reaching Moscow and other major Soviet cities.
So exactly, what is cloud seeding?
Cloud seeding is a process of introducing materials into clouds to generate rain or snowfall. Cloud seeding increases precipitation in specific areas by adding particles with additional nuclei around which water can condense. The most common method of cloud seeding involves dropping chemicals, such as silver iodide, into clouds from an aircraft.
So that's really interesting. So on one hand we had like cloud seeding to prevent the radioactive particles from spreading across a huge parts of land, but on the other hand the clouds were producing, if I may say so, producing rain, and the rain was bringing the radioactive particles down to the ground level again, so the radioactivity could be really high in some spots.
216 pilots undertook risky flights near the still-burning power plant, firing silver iodide-filled projectiles into the radioactive clouds within a 10-kilometer radius of Chernobyl. They then chased the dangerous clouds away, up to 100 kilometers, into the skies over Belarusian cities like Mogilev, Norulia, Gomel, Koiniki, and Brahin.
So basically they said that, okay, maybe these radioactive particles will rain down on Earth, but at least we will control partially where they will get.
From May to December 1986, planes made repeated flights around Chernobyl in an 80-kilometer loop, dispersing Cement 600, a mixture of cement and special agents. This caused a 5-month drought in Ukraine, as the Cement 600 absorbed moisture from clouds, preventing precipitation.
Yeah, so we have to remember about these events too, because the Chernobyl disaster, if you always think about it, well, maybe not always, but it's often limited to the things that happened here in the exclusion zone. So the Red Forest, Kopachi, Pripyat, Chernobyl nuclear power plant, etc. And even there where the Duga radar stands. But then again, we have to remember that it was such a disaster it was of a such huge magnitude that it impacted a lot more people and a lot more lands. So for example, as you just listened, the cleanup process, if we may call it that way, because it wasn't exactly a cleanup, but the cleanup process, the liquidators often had to make compromises. So bringing down the rain with radioactive particles, that was fairly understandable, but then again it imposed a drought in Ukraine for 5 months. It's a lot. And I think we still have some more question marks here, and I don't think we will explore them. No, we won't explore more, because I want you to jump inside the game yourselves, and I want you to explore this, and I want you also to pay a really good attention to the details, because even this simple wooden, how do you call it, fence, or this structure, or this building, all of them was processed by us, was like 3D modeled, and the real counterparts sometimes, in some cases, are still standing inside the exclusion zone. So when I tell you that you may feel kind of like exploring the Chernobyl Exclusion Zone, it's actually true. Partially, of course, because that's a digital version, but for example, we will jump in Kopachi, I think the next time, and there's an emerald camp, which was destroyed by fires, and right now you couldn't see the same things that are inside our game, and we kind of preserved it in a, well, digital way, because we scanned it, we recreated the 3D models, and now you can see them inside Chernobylite, even though they're not existing anymore. So guys, I think that's it for today. There's this famous Duga radar, so I'm still, well, I didn't decide yet if we will go to the Eye of Moscow next time or Kopachi, but let's stay with us and see on Friday, I think. Yeah, because this episode will be aired on Wednesday, and you will see the next map on Friday and then the regular episode on Sunday. So if you have any questions about the game, about how we scanned this, about our trips to Chernobyl Exclusion Zone, about the Pripyat, anything you actually want to ask regarding the Chernobyl Exclusion Zone or our game Chernobylite, feel free to do so in the comments. And yeah, that's it. Thank you guys for watching, and that's it for today. Take care, stay safe, and see you next week.